So the first thing that we want to look at, as with any type of behavior modification, is we want to manage the situation so that the dog doesn't continue to rehearse the unwanted behavior. And in the case of separation anxiety, the unwanted behavior happens when the dog is alone. Therefore, what we want to do is suspend absences outside of a specific protocol. This may sound tricky at first, but there are a lot of resources that talk about sort of crowdsourcing how to address not leaving your dog alone. And again, the reason is because otherwise it's kind of like taking 3 steps forwards and 5 backwards, because there's no way to communicate to the dog, I'm only leaving for 2 minutes this time, and to have that sort of burden of anxiety lifted from their shoulders without demonstrating via our behavior. And so our behavior of suspending absences allows the dog to gradually start to feel more relaxed about not needing to be on edge because a departure may be imminent at any moment. So suspending absences would be step number 1. The next step would be to look at pre-departure cues. Pre-departure cues, which we abbreviate PDQs, are things like the obvious ones, such as shoes and keys, maybe a purse or a jacket, but they can also be things like filling your to-go coffee, filling up the dog's water bowl, starting to put your dog some treats in a crate to intend to put your dog in the crate if that's the way that you'd previously addressed it. But dogs can generalize sometimes back to even brushing your teeth, or I had a client who, when he opened his sock drawer, the dog began to show signs of feeling anxious, recognizing that a departure was soon going to happen. So identifying those pre-departure cues. And when we work on a separation anxiety protocol using desensitization, the start would be to remove the pre-departure cues and then start to add them in slowly, one at a time. And the reason we would do that is because some cues may be more relevant to that dog. Some dogs may, for example, not react at all when you put your shoes on, but if you pick up the keys, that causes an immediate sense of panic. And so in those cases, we may need to slow down and or work on desensitization, or sometimes even counter conditioning, meaning pairing the experience with something that the dog values in order to make that cue less relevant, in order to help that dog to relax more in response to that particular pre-departure cue. Then we work on a specific protocol of desensitization. Generally takes about 30 minutes a day. We work on a variety of steps geared specifically to that dog and with changing criteria depending on that dog's response. But basically, we're looking to help the dog to not react to your movements, which indicate departure. These might be things like standing up, walking to the door, touching the doorknob, and then coming back and sitting down. If the dog responds to that step with a significant response or a significant reaction with his body language that would indicate anxiety, then we may need to repeat that or even break down that criteria further. Maybe we have to walk halfway to the door. Whereas if the dog is relaxed during that step of the exercise, then we might be able to take a next push in our criteria, a next step to walk to the door, open the door 3 inches or halfway, close the door again, come back and sit down. So gradually over time, using a specific desensitization protocol, we can help the dog to feel ho-hum, to feel that's boring, to feel not anxious anymore about those types of movements, and eventually the pre-departure cues incorporated as well, and eventually overall departure and then duration with that departure until we arrive at a situation where we can have a dog be relaxed at home for a longer period of time and you can go about your business like normal daily life activities.